We call the meeting of the Midtown Redevelopment Board to order for August the 13th, and we're beginning at, 7 after 6. We'll have our roll call.
Mr. McGee? Ms. Cato?
Here.
Ms. Ford?
She's excused.
Ms. Hurd? Here. Mr. Williams?
Here.
Dr. Jameson?
She's also excused.
Chairman Tuller?
Here. We have invited Minister Leah Reddick to come and do our invocation for us. And she's from Sanctuary of Praise, Fellowship Church of Praise. Yeah, right. And for those of you who are from here, that's the old George's place.
Midtown gave us our approval to get our church open, and we thank you for that. Let's just bow our heads. God, we're so gracious to you tonight. Thank you for gathering us together as city officials and residents and leaders, that we come together with one mind and one heart, that we may come to agreement and decisions for plans and opportunities that are best suited for all the needs of the people, the great city of Daytona Beach. We thank you for this now. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Let us have our pledge.
I pledge
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Board members, have you had a chance to go through the minutes?
Yes.
Any corrections?
None.
We did note a couple of corrections, and well, our attorney is going, but I was going to. Yes, sir. Wanted to make sure that the correction was legitimate. Instead of saying here where Mr. Bryant stated things, I was going to mention to the secretary that it should be that Mr. Bryant read the agenda items rather than saying that he stated it.
I think that would be a valid correction.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was on the right track. And we've already mentioned that. And also we mentioned that it's on page 9, it should read Harris's, the old Harris's grocery store rather than Harry's grocery store. Any other corrections noted in the minutes? Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
I make a motion that the minutes from Tuesday, July 9th, 2013 be accepted.
A second.
You've heard it moved and seconded that the minutes be accepted with any necessary corrections. Are you ready for the question?
Questions?
All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like signs, and ayes have it. And we'll move on to item number 7, DEV 213064, Conceptual Site Plan Review, Harrison Roads Memorial. Mr. Bryant, would you read that for us, please?
Board, this is DEV 2013-064, Concept Site Plan Review, Harrison Roads Memorial. This is, I just want to let you know that when I finish the report, that we do have a representative from Parker Menchenberg and Associates, and also from Bethune-Cookman University here to may be able to answer any questions, might want to say something regarding this concept review. The applicant is Mr. Parker Menchenberg, PE, on behalf of Bethune-Cookman University. The project is Harrison Rose Hall, 28,373 square foot administrative facility. The location is 641 Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Boulevard. Requested board action is review the conceptual site plan as required by Article 4, Section 8.2C of the Land Development Code, LDC. The board with final approval is Midtown. The project description, the Bethune-Cookman University BCU Harrison Rose Hall is a proposed educational facility to be located on the BCU campus. The applicant is proposing to demolish a portion of the existing Harrison Rose Memorial Building and construct a new 4-story, 28,373 square foot building. Analysis. City staff has received a conceptual site plan over 20,000 square feet for the Midtown Redevelopment Area Board's review and consideration. The existing zoning is RA multifamily. The applicant will undergo the following approval process: concept review by the Redevelopment Board, staff review through the technical review team, Midtown Redevelopment Board site plan review and approval. Article 5, Section 5.1 of the Land Development Code states, for all developments in excess of 20,000 square feet, GFA, in redevelopment areas and historic overlay districts, a concept plan shall be required prior to submittal of a site plan. The concept plan shall be reviewed by one or both of the following boards. The concept plan for any development located in a redevelopment area shall be reviewed by the redevelopment board for that particular area. The concept plan for any development located in a historic overlay shall be reviewed by the Historic Preservation Board. For concept plans for any development located in both an historic overlay and a redevelopment area, the Historic Preservation Board shall provide recommendations to the Area Redevelopment Board. Staff is requesting that the board review the attached site plan information and provide any comments for the conceptual review of the project for consideration by the city's technical review staff. Once the staff review is complete, the project will be scheduled for a site plan review by the Midtown Redevelopment Area Board.
Okay, thank you, sir. And we do have a representative here.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I appreciate the opportunity to present this project to you. I think Mr. Bryan did an excellent job of describing, yes. Oh,
First,
name and
need
record.
your name
Sure.
and address.
Steve Buswell with Parker Menchenberg and Associates. We're the design engineers.
Okay.
I think Mr. Bryan's report was pretty complete. We're here to answer any questions you have. The project is on a very tight schedule, and in discussion with Mr. Ross, I've not ever requested a special meeting, but I understand there's a mechanism, I think, to possibly allow that. Just want to basically ask the question if that could be considered.
Okay. A
And-
special meeting?
Again, I'm a little unfamiliar with that process because I've never had to actually request one, but Mr. Ross is here and he'll be happy to address that. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, everybody. Irvin Ross, Physical Plant Director for Bethune-Cookman University. We're requesting, knowing the time schedule that the process generally takes, we're requesting a final meeting of the board in order to expedite the project and not having to wait until the following September meeting in order to get the final meeting concept approved so that we could try to move this project forward.
Okay. So what you're asking us is not just a conceptual site plan tonight, but actually a site plan review.
Yes, sir. Is that, no?
Can't do that.
Board, I think Mr. Ross understands you can't do that tonight. He's asking us for a special meeting, a different date to come back and for a site plan approval, not
Instead
tonight.
of waiting till September.
Yeah.
Right.
okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Now I understand. Okay. All right. I don't particularly have a question for Mr. Ross. I do have a question as to, has the Historic Preservation Board made any recommendation?
Not that I'm aware of. It's not a historic building.
Well, the reason I'm asking
Because
that,
it's in the plan.
well, it's not a historic building.
The campus
It's in-
is part of the campus,
Right.
but that
campus-
specific building isn't.
It's in a historic district, but that particular building is not a historic building.
Okay.
Just for your clarification, Mr. Chair, I think the reason this was put in there, just to explain, if it was a historic building, that it would have to be reviewed by the historic board. This is saying these are the guidelines that we would have to consider
Okay.
if it was a historic building.
So it's not a historic building? Okay.
Right. And that goes for any building. We obviously have a lot of areas that are in a historic district that's national. We don't have a local historic district, so the Historic Preservation Board would not be reviewing anything in Midtown
Okay.
under the
All
current
right.
rules.
Okay. Does anyone
Mr.
have any questions?
I do.
Ms. Cato?
What will the new part consist of? Classrooms, teaching space?
Labs, teaching space, classrooms, conference areas,
But that,
and offices. for
okay,
the
but that
teachers.
front part will be the restored, I mean, it'll stay as is.
It will stay as is, and it will be completely restored.
It will still be used?
It will be used.
Okay. My only concern is when you all start constructing this building, could you please keep it nice and clean like you did your other projects
Certainly.
so that it doesn't catch our eye when we're going through the campus? I'm sure you will.
We certainly.
And my other concern is student safety. Will it be fenced in or just with the?
We will have construction fencing all around the project.
How long is this going to take?
We're anticipating about 10 months from the time that we actually get the final permit.
So it'll be next year.
Yes.
Okay. And I know when I was there, my first history class was in that building. Parking, will it be adequate parking around, or will that still be one of the buildings you would have to access by walking?
More than likely, we will have some additional parking
But not,
over at the Lefevre Hall location,
okay.
but we will still have some access by walking.
Mr. Williams?
I'm just curious. That was my old building too, because I was a criminal justice major. And almost all my classes were in that building. Would this simply be in that one area that encompasses Harrison Roads, or will it span to the west where the vacated property where the business building was?
No, we're planning to use the same footprint,
Okay.
and by going up,
Up.
we'll accomplish a lot by adding some additional space.
Oh, Mrs. Hurd?
No, I'm excited about it. It's growing. And I guess I have to say, too, I was there, but I did not have any classes in that particular building as such. I'm looking forward to seeing the campus grow. And my question, which the chairman would be asking, when would you like to have another meeting?
As soon as we could
That's out of
possibly.
order.
As soon as we could possibly.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
what I would suggest, given the few of us that are here, that we will go ahead and poll you. Just want to make sure that you're comfortable with us having a special meeting.
Yes,
I'd like to
that's
know that
what-
that's,
Okay. Yes, I was just about to put that to the vote.
Yes, sir.
okay.
So I will at this time entertain any motion in that regard. Mr. Bryant, go ahead with your.
Okay. I was just looking at my calendar, Mr. Chair, and in order to expedite this request, it would have to be somewhere around the week of either the 27th or 29th of August, which is a Tuesday or Thursday, because next week I'll be away at a conference, and it won't give me an opportunity to try to put this together. By then, I could probably try to do it either one of those dates. If not, then we're going to run right back in to the Midtown meeting in September, because we got a holiday between there. So I would suggest that, and I will poll everybody to see if one of those dates are available. Because if not, we're going to run into September, and we'll be back in the second week of September, so we're not going to be fulfilling the request.
Okay, well, first I need a motion to even have a special meeting.
I would like to make a motion that the Midtown Redevelopment Board have a special expedient meeting with BCU, with the planning for the construction of the, wait a minute, hold on. Excuse me, review the conceptual site plan as required by article. That's not it. Where?
Harrison Road Hall.
Harrison Roads, okay, but it was something else we usually say before we do that, right? It's usually written out, DVC, blah, blah, blah.
It's right up there at the top.
Which one?
Harrison Road Memorial Social Science Building.
Top on the right-hand side.
Oh, okay, I'm
Big black
sorry.
letter.
For site plan DEV 2013064 for BCU Harrison Roads Hall.
It has been moved that we have a special meeting to expedite the review of the site plan.
I second the motion.
I have a second. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. At the opinion of the chair, it passes. We will have a special site plan, a special meeting. We'll poll the members of the board and then get in touch with you with when that would be.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Were there any, I just didn't know if there were any more comments about the facade or anything else you want to offer up before we go back and have them back here in 2 weeks. If there's any other thoughts, Mr. Chair?
I didn't have any. After looking at the site plan, the initial site plan, I didn't see any. I didn't have any further questions. Did anyone on the board have any other questions in regard to that?
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Our staff report. We do have the ComStat report from Captain Blanchett. I know that this was just placed on our desk in front of your, it wasn't in the packet this week. But as you look over it, if you have any questions that we need to address with Captain Blanchett, we will ask him at that time for next meeting to come in. I am very concerned about the homicides. Even though the total amount is not, doesn't look like it's that much, just the fact that we've had 2 homicides in the Midtown area is enough to cause alarm. And that's something, again, I'm going to contact Captain Blanchett and ask him, is there anything that we can do to kind of see some changes in these numbers, such as the sexual batteries being up 130%. sexual battery on a child up 367%. That's ridiculous. And I was going to wait until board comments to say this, but I think it's probably apropos to make mention of this now. One of my other concerns is that most of the sexual offenders now can only find residence based on the law in Midtown. That troubles me. That troubles me. And it's simply because of certain parks and things like that are in other areas of the city, and Midtown is the only one where that does not apply. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of what we're seeing is based on the fact that those offenders are in the Midtown area. I don't know if anything can be done to address that, but I think it's something we really need to look at, because we're going to keep getting staggering increases until something is done about that particular incident alone. Granted, we cannot say that we don't want them anyplace in the city, because that's unconstitutional. But the fact remains, we are seeing everyone directed to the Midtown area, which is causing an increase in the crime in Midtown. So I think that's something we really need to look at. And I would like Captain Blanchard to kind of give us some input on that next month, because that is really a major issue as far as I'm concerned. Yes, sir.
That's one of the things that's troubled me. Sometimes when I think and I talk to people about the way that I think, they look at me like I've got a horn on the top of my head. And years ago, I thought, okay, well, the sexual battery thing, what do you do with them? And the population of people that have sexual offenses is growing and growing and growing and growing. So the problem is much broader than what do we do about Midtown. It's how do we handle the population of sexual predators in general, because you can't lock them away. Well, they're not locking them away forever, and they're living, so they have to live someplace. And so I think that's a conversation that's going to need to take place on an even broader scale in order to solve this problem on an even broader scale. Because if you move them from here, it's kind of like that there was a time that they were pushing drug dealers from here to over there, and so you just move the problem, and so somebody's got to deal with it, and somebody suffers because of it. And I think I don't know who we have the conversation with, or who has the conversation, but it's huge, and I think there's also a link between homelessness, sometimes, and people that are sexual predators. Well, if you're homeless, there's no paper trail. And so no one can exclude you simply because they look at you, or include you. And so I think this is a conversation that needs to happen on a broader scale in order to solve it in Midtown as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's also a fact that our penal system, when we have juveniles and sexual offenders released from being incarcerated, if family does not take them in, they go back to where they were grounded, which would be close to home if the door isn't open for them to return to home. And considering we have an elementary school and a middle school and daycare and after-school care programs, if you go and put an address in Midtown and just say sexual predators and they give you the radius, I was shocked to find that there were 15 people within a 2-block radius that had registered through the sheriff's department that this was where they lived. And another thing that I see in Midtown, in the morning, International, Martin Luther King, Orange Avenue, wherever these homeless people have slept, that's their thoroughfare. There are so many hidden patches, these houses that are in this report, where homeless people are living in overgrown areas or they're living in abandoned houses. But it hurts me to know that when we have a big event in town, you have homeless people on the beach side that are told by the police, go over to the mainland. These people don't need to see you all over here. But then when they come over here, where do they go? A lot of them are wanted. They have warrants out for their arrest. But then a lot of them are just doing the best that they can do. And I've always said safety. If this is an issue and we have 11 murders unsolved, everybody knows what's going on. People know what happened. They're just afraid to come out because they feel like nothing will be done. I'm going to stop right there and save the rest of it for board comments. But my fear is school starting back, and if everybody goes home tonight and Google your address and put in sexual predators, you would be surprised. And what he stated is true. Midtown is 90% rental property. People rent. People don't have, man, come stay with me. The landlord doesn't come by. You can stay here. Just give me such and such a week. But you don't know who you're letting in your home. But then when there's a problem, it turns out this is a person you let in being nice, not knowing that there was an issue behind it. And the last-ditch effort for recreation centers to be opened up to save the youth so they didn't straggle all over the city during the summer. That should be in place from the beginning of school to the end of summer. What happens to the children once school closes? You have parents leaving kids at home because they have to go to work. They can't afford daycare. They can't afford to pay somebody to watch them. Kids try to do the best they can by being compliant, but eventually they wander out the house. They wander out down the street. They go in the store. I don't have money. I'm hungry, but I want it. You still, here we go. It's just a revolving thing, and it's in Midtown more than any other area. I was reading the minutes. Ms. Hurd made a comment about purchasing the old Harris grocery store for a senior community center. Why should we have to go and open something up just for them when we have two centers right here in Midtown? Fees and all the politics that follow, that's the stopping line. But I understand the need of people wanting to go somewhere every day, not just a day out of the week. But why should we have to go and open something separate when we have two right on both sides of Midtown? We have the PAL Center, Midtown Culture, and we have the Dickinson Center. But the fees are just astronomically unbelievable. And I understand the city has to do what they have to do to take care of and maintain those properties. But I believe the taxpayers have a right that the money in this area should be spent and accounted for. And I'm going to stop. I'm going to try to save everything else to the end. But that was my only problem with the sexual predator situation. They're not here because they want to. It's the only place they can go.
I would like to add to that, sexual predators should be, probably is more because of the boundaries of Midtown. We have spoken of the boundaries of Midtown before, and I do believe that it stops at School Street and Bellevue out there, Fremont. But it is happening from School Street all the way over to Clyde Mars Boulevard, and then back toward Soul City, per se. So, and I have said before, I would love for us to look at the boundaries of Midtown. Thank you.
Okay. All right. We And staff, if we could possibly get Captain Blanchett here for next month, that could be very helpful. I'd appreciate it. Moving to code enforcement, staff report. Looking through here, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it yet, but one of the major concerns is, again, the Masonic Lodge on South Street and Marion. That lodge really does need a lot of work. And I understand the historic significance of it, but something needs to be done to fix this situation because it is unsafe. Don't know the condition of the foundation. Here it says that it's in a dilapidated condition. One of my major concerns is that with all the homelessness, who's to say somebody wouldn't go there for shelter and end up being killed? Because this building has been closed since the hurricanes that hit Daytona. I live diagonally across the street from it. Hurricanes hit Daytona. The meter actually came loose from the building, and live wires were in the road. So I don't know what could be done to help with that situation, but something has to be done now because it's a safety hazard. I mean, you know, we talk about it being an eyesore and all of that, but it is a safety hazard. And that is one of the major concerns that I have. I would love to see it fixed up and brought back into compliance, but I really think we're at a point now where something has to be done. Because, yeah.
Was it ever deemed a historical site? I know it is. I can recall when I first joined the board, they came before us asking for help, the Masonic Lodge. And there were some things they needed to do. I haven't seen them since then. That's been at least 2 years, if not 3. My question is, where do they begin to try to get any type of funding to keep this historical landmark in Midtown? And if they can't secure the funds, if it has to be demolished, can it be rebuilt can the property be retained for them to build it? I mean, what's the process of them, if they can't keep the building, keeping the land?
Board, I will try to answer that question, and with the help of Reed and Attorney Gross. We did meet with them. It's been a couple of years. I can't remember the exact date. We were in the process. As I recall, the board did approve them for a grant, which had to go forward to the CRA for approving of the funding. I did meet with them and try to press upon them that this was not that the board did not have the authority to approve the funding, that they needed to go forward to the CRA. Also, that they needed to get that approval from the CRA before going forward to Tallahassee with a grant. They chose to go forward with the grant through Tallahassee without the approval of the CRA, and they were denied that grant, historic preservation grant in Tallahassee. Since that time, I agree with the chairman, there's little or nothing that's been done to the building itself. If they were if they were required to demolish the building, they could retain ownership of the property themselves if they paid for the demolition themselves. However, if the city paid for the demolition, then the city would put a lien against that property for the cost of demolition.
Have we gotten back in contact with the ruler Masonic people since then?
I have not.
July 25th.
I have not. I know I've been out a week and a half sick, but I do know that prior to my going out, I do know that the code enforcement inspector, Mr. Lopez, has been by there. They've cited them. He's also contacted the building official. I understand they were supposed to go out. I don't know the results of that visit that they were supposed to pay to the building to see if it was additional to the foundation was unsafe or not. I haven't had an opportunity to check and find out what the results of that visit, even if they made a visit. But I know that was the intention of him putting it on this report and sending an email to the building official to try to get them to go out and inspect the property.
I would just note the last time that we were involved, we really had, I know Charles, demolition was imminent. We intervened. We were able to work with them to at least, we've done some grants before. The state has given grant money just to get it to the point of stabilizing it and structurally hold it all together. So if you were actually inside there, you'd see some bars and other things that are going across and underneath to hold all the parts together. So with the idea that at some point the economy would turn around because the state stopped all grants. Anyway, it wasn't because this wasn't important, like a lot of structures around Florida. It's just there was no money to go around. There's a backlog, and they're not quite there yet on the state budget where that door is open again. So we've really been just buying time. But if we get into a situation, and I don't know the particulars of this one, where we have a structural issue, we'll see if we can do something. If we can't, we may be taking pictures, and we may lose this one. But it's probably too early to tell, Charles, before. But I think now that it's come to our attention, we'll be monitoring this very closely because it's still an important part of our heritage. We'd like to retain that structure if at all possible.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
But in doing so, the comment you made about them, the route they should have taken by going to the CRA, I'm finding a lot of people that approach me, and I tell them, you can come to us, but you still have to go to the city. We're just a liaison. We don't approve in code with signatures what can be done. And when you tell them that, I think that puts a little fear because they don't know where to begin, and all they have to do is come and ask. And the problem I'm seeing in Midtown is that a lot of good sound buildings that aren't being used, eventually they're going to be demolished because no one has an interest. The building's good, but they don't want to go through the process of doing what's right. And that's the problem. I think a lot of board members, while I was in Miami when I read the minutes from last meeting and this one, people just doing what they want to do in Midtown. But when they see a board member, they want to come to us and they think we're going to give them solid go. No, you need to go to the city. Go see Reed or Mr. Bryant. You just can't do what you want to do because it comes back. Everybody sees what's going on, and when they're fed up, then they want to run and tell, and then it becomes an issue. But I think if the word is put out there, you have to go through the city. You just can't go and do what you want to do. I would hate to see this building torn down, but looking at the condition of this building, I think something should have been done way before now, and they can't say that you weren't patient. So I would just hope someone would get in touch with them because we're getting
Well,
ready.
Don't misunderstand me. I think that we should make every attempt possible to contact someone, but it really is not the city's responsibility to get in touch with them.
I was saying that in the sense of if they haven't gotten back with you all by now, when the demolition crew is there, who they going to?
Mhm.
Why didn't you tell us? Well, you came to us, you never came back, we told you what to do, you didn't do it properly, now you're coming back to us. That's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah. And my dilemma is that when you've got people who are a part of that lodge, who are construction workers and contractors, they know what to do. That's my point. That's just like if your house was cited, you'd go and find out what to do to get your house straightened out. Sometimes we make things, I understand there are some things that are not user-friendly at the city, but sometimes we go so far trying to make everything user-friendly until our niceness is taken as weakness. I don't mean to sound harsh or mean, but I mean, come on now, 2 years?
I've had several people to come to me, and specifically gentleman comes to mind. So when I see him coming, I'm like, some of the times I'm like, I want to see him before he sees me, so I can take another route. And he constantly badgers me about this, and I tell him what he has to do, but it's like Ms. Cato said, people simply want to do what they want to do, and don't want to follow rules, follow proper protocol, and eventually something catastrophic happens, and their hands are tied, and they say all of the normal things that you hear people say once they haven't done what they're supposed to do, and the roof caves in.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and we've got to work on some of these issues that are cited here. For instance, I know some things, such as the Masonic Lodge, is going to take time to straighten out. But 545 Magnolia Avenue, all they need is a weed eater.
but you know whose property that is? Excuse me for interrupting. That's behind the motorcycle shop. This is behind Pierre Lewis's
His residence?
yeah, it's near his residence.
Okay, but
I'm just saying, but he can't, if he doesn't take this path, he doesn't see it. That's why I'm just like totally shocked.
I mean, granted that may be true, but that doesn't stop the fact that something needs to be done. I'm just amazed at the overgrowth.
And that picture, we don't have the pictures up top for the audience to see, but at any rate, this is a big concern in Midtown, where we have these properties where vines grow and the palm trees grow, and you have to almost walk out in the street and get back up on the sidewalk just to walk down the street. I mean, people are complaining at churches that have to park on side streets that they can't even open their doors to get out because hedges are almost over the sidewalk. I mean, I'm just taking it that code enforcement just has such an overload, they can't get to everything as quick as they can.
And
Yeah.
That picture up my right in the corner where you see all that shrubbery coming towards the sidewalk, that's not just this street, it's all over
Many
Midtown.
streets.
there's a house in my neighborhood, and I've got a question. Maybe one of you all have had this question asked. Say again. But okay, say for instance, my neighbor next door to me, hypothetically, it's not the situation, but hypothetically, if my neighbor's shrubbery was going outside onto the sidewalk, and I could get by, could I take a weed whacker or a chainsaw and cut whatever is on the sidewalk? Could I do that as a next door neighbor? Or is this something you need to ask code enforcement?
Well, if it's going in the right of way, the city can remove it. If it's going on your property, you can remove that part that's on your property.
Okay.
I don't know technically that you have a right to cut their shrubbery because it's growing out of the sidewalk.
If you all ride down Beverly Avenue, behind the golf course.
I'm sorry. I have to
Oh, I'm
repeat that
sorry.
since somebody didn't hear it. The fact that it's going on the sidewalk, I don't think gives you the right to cut it, but you could ask the city to do that.
In the golf course, Bevel Road from Ridgewood, almost up to Nova Road, the sidewalks, the palm trees are over, the shrubbery, the grass is overgrown, and I noticed that 2 days ago. I was like, wow.
Yeah, but now we can
I'm just
stay on
saying, in the
Midtown.
sense of how things grow, and people just take for granted that resident city, and that was a big conversation we had with all the streetscaping that went on in Magnolia. You came in and put down sidewalks and grass and buffers. Who's responsible? The residents are responsible. But when it comes to this, the city's responsible. So what's the difference between this and the streetscape?
May I say, this is beautification. And this has grown over the years, and it has been neglected over the years. This is the responsibility of the owner, of the people that live there. Right. And as I tell my neighbors out there, I don't play. Now, if you don't cut the lots, grass or so, I'm going to the city. That's just it. This is beautification, and I don't want to live in something like this. Therefore, I take the next step. I understand what you're saying about the sidewalks and the streets and things like that. We have addressed that before, and hopefully they will get some weed killer or something and remove the grass from the sidewalks. But this is the ownership here.
Now, the other things that are cited here in the report from code enforcement, we can see what happens between now and next month, and I'm glad that code enforcement is moving on some things like this, but I mean, some things are just, I mean, even a teenager, pay the teenager so you can go there and cut the yard.
They want top rate.
No matter, it's better than getting a fine. I mean, but these are the things that I'm really concerned about, because it's not a major issue. It's something that can be resolved pretty simply. So that's a concern that I have with that. But code enforcement and the police department report, we've gone over them. Now we come to discussion item, Midtown Master Plan update, item number 8. Mr. Berger.
Well, it's been I would say, a long time coming that we're getting to the point where we can actually start talking about implementation of the plan in what would be a meaningful way, which is to put the regulations in place, put it in the land development code. And to make sure that we did this right, I got back in touch with Professor Huffman. And he made it very clear to me that he did have some changes still to make. We kind of went through a several months ago with one example at Oak and Fulton. And through that process, discovered there were a number of revisions that would be helpful if we really wanted to create that urban pattern, and respect the kind of neighborhood we have now, with the placement of the buildings, the porches, everything else that makes a neighborhood a neighborhood. And as well as make sure that we have the kind of commercial development and developed in a way, in a pattern that will reflect what the current trends are that would encourage investors to come to this area. So through more work on his part, we hired him for some of this work, and he was glad to do that. He's on board. What we haven't done is, and don't have enough funds to pay him to come down here physically and do that. That's where you run into a lot of money. So we've been doing this across the computer and the phone, and he was very timely, very helpful on getting what is attached in here with revisions to the development guidelines. Why was that so important? Because that is the essential information we had to have in the Land Development Code if we wanted to get Clarion to have that review of it and get those comments back into a process that's now gone into an accelerated schedule itself. Mm-hmm. So the good news is Midtown is in the sequence and is being considered as a part of the overall Land Development Code rewrite, so that we can all look at what comes out the other end in the public review process that starts up this fall, with the idea that by the end of this year, and we're being very optimistic here, by the end of this year, there would be a draft land development code to look at and have addressed all of the provisions that are in here. Now, some of these provisions may or may not come in exactly as what Mr. Huffman has provided to us, but I expect that, and we've asked for that to be as genuine and close to what we have here. There has to be some overriding reason why it doesn't work. The other thing that we have to do is make sure that when we go forward that everything is going to work with a comprehensive plan in these design guidelines and what we're creating in the future. So the parallel effort besides the Land Development Code is we are preparing the documentation for the comprehensive plan amendment that we can complete this fall and have it go through the process the same as the Land Development Code, come out at the other end at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. And if we do that, we can have a transmittal, get everything wrapped up by next summer for all of Midtown. But in the meantime, and this is an important point, is it has been suggested to me that we will be attempting to rezone all of the property in Midtown that conforms with the comprehensive plan, the land use. And if you've looked at several cases that have come before you where we had land use was one thing and zoning's another.
Right.
But if we can get to the point where we can have some of our new zoning districts put in place the way they're in the master plan right now and how they look, those recommendations, that's our goal. Okay. Now, I think I put a color map in the back there for you, and we're using that as a guideline for both the zoning and the land use to match up. And what we need to do, and are in the process of doing, is getting the GIS mapping, the big maps that are going to show us where the overlap is today with the current comprehensive plan and where we're going to have conflicts and know where we can rezone the property. And that's the next piece of information we hope to have for you in September. That's our intent, so that we can move this through the process with the planning board and the city commission for their review. I would say that, again, the goal is by the end of this year. It's a pretty lofty goal, and we'll just set our eyes on that, see if we can get it done. The other part of this is that I do want Craig Huffman to come up here in September, and I've told him that. So I've reserved what funds we have left to bring him up here, have him review some of this information, make sure that you're hearing from him what you're hearing from me, and that that what he's going to deliver for us is that master plan we have revised, and as appendix, we're just looking at revising it and moving forward. It's going to be hopefully September when we can show you where those changes are in the Midtown plan. But it's all going to be improvements. It's going to be better, the new and improved.
All right. Now, one of the questions that I have is the color coding on the map. I see where we have schools, parks, recreation, retail, the medium mixed use. Excuse me. But I also noticed some purple coloring and some green coloring.
Let me jump into the railroad area I think you're speaking of, that's on the right side of your map. And that area is the industrial area, which will become eco-industrial in the future. And what we're going to do is adopt that on both the downtown and the Midtown area.
Okay.
And so it will have the same features and regulations. It just got left off of here in terms of what it is, but it will have those features in here.
Okay.
What's the maroon one we're speaking of?
No, the green there.
Green? Oh.
Just to the west of the purple, toward the south side of the map.
Well, I kind of owe you another map because I'm missing the bottom half of my map.
Is that the Dickerson Center?
Yeah, it is. This is Parks and Recreation.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the other part.
Yeah, that's what it is. My apologies. And I'm also we're also leaving out the bottom half of the map, and you really need to have that. And when we come back, we'll have those complete maps, and they'll be fairly large, so we'll have to fold them and all of that for you. But we want we want you to have this gives you the concept of what we're proposing, and that if you take this back and you look at the master plan documents that you have in your possession, they will line up. But if you take this same map and you look at that comprehensive plan document that you also have, it's all over the place. And so the real challenge for us is how to make all of this work. And so we're going to do it in a couple steps so that we can expedite some of the zoning now. And I always say now, I mean by the end of the year, by early next year, we can start that process, and then catch up with the comprehensive plan process later in next year.
Okay, now, you mentioned the comp plan amendment.
Yes.
Possibly being able to be drafted by, is it this fall or next fall?
This fall we're working on the amendment right now. So what we're sharing with you is just the beginning of that process, and by September to come back to you with our formal recommendations. You can see we've put the text. It's only a page of what we have in there that really needs to be changed when we're talking about the land use. Now, there's neighborhood policies, there's some other things in there. We will also ask the board to offer up any other recommendations that they see as you read the Midtown Master Plan, that we didn't miss anything, that we're going in the right direction here, looking for some guidance, and again, being advisory to let the planning board know what this board thinks about the process and the plan.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Berger?
I like this map.
I'm glad to see this. It is bringing things closer to fruition. I'm really excited about the progress we're making with this, and it is kind of giving us a little bit more of what Mr. McGee is always asking for a target date. And it's getting there, and we're glad to see that. That's a major step. And are there any questions for Mr. Bryant with the redevelopment projects? Have we had a chance to look at them?
Yes.
Excuse me. So they're, go ahead.
No, ask what you're going to ask.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
I'll wait until take comments.
All right. We still see the situation on George Street, 580 Fremont. We've got that vacant lot next to 580 Fremont.
That's not
I have a question
Yes.
for Mr. Bryant. And the question is, considering we have so much vacant property that is owned by property owners that live out of the county, out of state, if not, we know the majority of the property owners don't live right here in Daytona. To ease the dilapidated look and just blight, does the city have a bidding process that when code enforcement gets overloaded, they can hire a lawn service, landscaping service to go and take care of some of these properties? And if so, would that come out of Midtown's budget or would it come out of the city's budget? Because the problem I see is just so much with all the rain. You know, you may cut this side of Midtown, but by the time you cut it, this side is grown back up and the calls start coming back in. So it's just a revolving thing that where we have all these properties that become overgrown. So if the city can't handle it, is there a bidding process? Is there a program in place where contractors can come and bid on a contract to where they can keep the lots, you know, keep so much from being overgrown at one time?
Yeah, good question, Ms. Cato. As a matter of fact, the properties that you see listed here, I actually sent these to Ms. Barbara Collins, who is the code enforcement officer, and her job, she's in charge of lot clearance. The city has contracted with a contractor, and they do have a list of properties that the city have this particular contractor to keep up. I don't know which ones are on the contract, but when I find a property, I send it directly to her, and she knows who owns the property. She knows if they own that list. The code enforcement department can cite that property owner, and if they don't keep it up, then they send the contract out, cut it, and then they actually send them a bill, put a lien against their property. But we already have that process in place.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
If I can, at the next city commission meeting, there's a request on the agenda to increase the expenditures that are allowed to be made under that exact contract. So.
Right, because as you can see, it's a lot of it, and I mean, this contractor, he cuts, you know, the whole city. So he's busy. I've seen him out. He's got a tractor, and he's got people that he's employed to do that. But like you see, it gets overwhelming once the rainy season kicks in.
So if someone wanted to inquire about getting on that list to be a contractor,
They would have to go through the purchasing department.
purchasing, okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Bryant?
I do have one question. It's about a property that's on Orange Avenue. If you simply go west on Orange Avenue, just prior to getting to Riva Street, on the right hand side, there's a property there.
Riva?
It's on Orange Avenue. Just prior, there isn't an address on it. There's just a 6 on it.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can picture it in your mind, but the face of it is just horrendous.
It's on Riva Street or on?
No, it's on Orange Avenue, just prior to getting to Riva Street. On the
836?
836, that's it.
Oh, ongoing.
836. We've been dealing with that property for a long time. That's Mr. Birch, John Birch family. The family owns it. They've been in code enforcement, and it's been an issue for a long time. But it's still, as far as I know, it's still being dealt with by code enforcement. You talking about with the facade, the front, and everything is disrupted?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one, the pink building.
Right.
Right.
All right. At this time, we'll address any public comments. Any comment from the public?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Patricia Jones. Do you need my address too?
Yeah.
507 South Key Street, Daytona Beach, Florida.
Okay.
I am very glad to hear the things that I have heard here tonight. I am trying to make myself a committee of one to come out and hear what's going on.
Okay.
The thing that has kept me from coming is the way that I was raised and the things that I was taught, but I found out that they're not applicable. And so I want to make a change, starting with myself. And I see that progress is trying to be made, and to be present, I see that it can make a difference when you know what's happening and why it is happening. Because of the fact that some people are not paying attention to what you're saying does not give them the right to be angry when you have to do what you have to do. So we just need to try to get more people. I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying we just need to try to get more people involved. And I joined up with the Neighborhood Watch.
Okay.
And so after going to several of those meetings, then the information that I got from those meetings are beginning to bring me to this, which is a good thing. I don't know how much I can give to you, but you have given me a wealth of information that I can give to someone else, and maybe they'll start coming and see the importance of coming out to these type meetings, because it does make a difference when you're here and you know what's going on instead of thinking things are being this way or that way or the other. To be present does make a difference. And thank you for allowing me to be doing my citizenship that I should be doing anyway. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Leah Riddick, 844 Martin Luther King Boulevard. I just have two questions. The city recently put out a listing of vacant property in Midtown, and I just wanted to know what would be the bidding, and I don't know if this is the right place for that, but what would be the bidding process of acquiring it, and will we be able to know what it could be used for before it's purchased? Thank you.
Okay, I can answer that. We did give notice that there are properties, I think there's 56 of them, that we can dispose of. Most of those are in the Midtown area. almost all of them are single-family. And if we're going to put them back out there for sale, which we're in the process of doing, and it will be a little time before it goes back. I think we might be getting through a budget process before we're taking that action. We'll see. But let's just say in the early fall, it's our intent to have that back out and published, and we would be looking for people. The preference and the selection is for someone who's going to actually build on that property, and preferably a homeowner, and someone who's going to live in that community and stay in that community. So that's the ideal. Now, it may not be the time that people are ready to invest and do that with most of these lots. So the second best thing in terms of a successful candidate to buy it, because we'll have a selection committee for this, will be that you have to have some commitment on taking care of the property and making an investment by a certain time. Because I don't think we want to get in the process or in the situation where nothing happens and these lots become what you see on the list of overgrown lots and what have you. So, but we want to make them available to those in the community, and if they're interested. The last thing we want to do is really give it to someone who wants to flip property or hold on to the property for a long time. We want it to really benefit someone. There's several that are actually adjacent to someone who may want to acquire it and add to their property. And that would be another one of those situations where we would want to give some preference. So all of that will go back to the city commission for their final decision to dispose of those properties. So it'll be sometime through the fall. We'll be going through that process to get the word out, get people interested, to apply, and then to finally take some action, hopefully by the end of the year, to sell it.
All right.
Question.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have. I'm sorry.
At this time, we're going to open board comments, and we'll begin with Mrs. Cato.
I want to ask Reed. You said that most of it is single families, but is any of it, like you say, zoned for business, commercial? I mean, in the areas, I mean, you probably don't know every property, what it's zoned for, but considering in our master plan, we're talking about people investing. I don't think the properties are major size to where a big company would come in, but something like what Gerald Chester has, a property that has parking, it's not big, but it's big enough. Is the committee going to consider letting businesses buy some of this property if they're committed to putting a business on it?
Goes back to the zoning.
Right.
And not only the zoning, but what we're going to look like in the future in Midtown. So we'll take that in consideration. There may be a reason to make that part of a rezoning for some of those lots. Most of them, with the exception of the police station, which is on this list, and a couple other properties, they're all going to be residential. So it's a good question, because there's, I think, a couple on there, Charles, that are probably going to fit into what we may be either mixed use of some kind or straight retail.
But it's a small number.
There's very small number. Yep. And not large lots either. So that's not going to be the avenue, in other words, to really make things happen. I think I'd be more interested in taking a dilapidated building somewhere on our business corridors and trying to get some redevelopment that way.
What will make the city, I mean, if the person bids and they get the property, I heard you say you would want it to be someone that would build and live in the community. But if someone purchases a property and builds and, like you say, flip it or rent, how is the committee handling that? I mean, because some people are going to tell you up front, I'm purchasing this to build and rent it.
Well, Charles has been through this with me one time already. We've thought about that. We thought about how do we, remember, we have to sell at market value. And we would incentivize for these in terms of the value of the land, reduce the cost of that land for those who are going to do these things. And we may have, and the question is, where's our level of tolerance? What are we going to accept? Just sell the property the highest bidder? Is that our goal? Just to get rid of it? I don't think so. I think in redevelopment, it's a different situation.
And that's our problem. We have a lot of property that's vacant, that's owned, and it's never developed, owned. And they'll say, I have property in Midtown, but they never build on it, and it just sits vacant year after year. So through this process of these properties,
Your microphone?
through this process, that means that when they come to the sale, they have a plan for what they want to do with this property. Is that what you're saying? You said
They have to. There has to be a commitment, and then it'll be a legal document and contract.
There you go.
They're entering into with the city.
Okay.
There can be a reverter clause. Some cities do that, and say, look, if you haven't done anything in 2 years, we'll take it back. And if no one successfully bids on some of these properties, we'll take it back and we'll rethink what we're doing and say maybe there's a different way we can do this, or maybe the market's not right now. Maybe we need to sit back for a year to get most of the inventory sold. But since things has just turned around, this is a good time to start.
So considering what's the basis for the properties as a whole for the market value right now? If you can tell us.
I'm not sure I got that figure. I mean, it's the number skewed because of the police station, which is over $1 million. I think the rest of it is fairly low. I mean, we're talking a couple $100,000 in total for 50 properties in terms of what is the value. We're talking $1,000.
Give me that.
The lots on the books can be, $2,000, $2,500. It's not that much money.
Wow.
The problem is we can give it away and not get anything back in return. Then what should we do? Sit on it? So we're going to look for people who really want to invest in our community.
Wow.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Williams?
Was that my board comments?
Yeah.
Yes, I wasn't done.
Then why'd you say okay?
I said okay to this question.
Okay. Well, finish your board comments,
Okay.
please.
You knew that was short.
Yes.
Just, I got so upset last week reading the newspapers. And the problem I have is that for some reason they say I'm the bulldog on this committee. I fuss and argue. I asked the mayor, and he said, oh, y'all argue a lot now. But he said it in a jokingly manner.
We discuss.
We discuss. We don't argue. But my concern is we have all this property that's small, but we have other property in Midtown that's large. And I'm going to pass these articles around. You don't have to read them, but you can look at the headings. Some of them, this was pertaining to the murders, but a new ISB is starting to happen. And just all these things that are going on out west and across the river. And it's been declared that the bloodline runs straight through Midtown. You get off 95, if you take International to go to the beach, you have to pass through Midtown. But what does it take? I don't even know how long I've been on this board. But what does it take? In 29 months, we're going to have a new racetrack. 400 million? A roller coaster, a Hard Rock hotel, but Midtown will still sit here idle. And nobody will turn off on Lincoln, MLK, Keach, Adams, Reva. No one's going to turn off. We keep talking about what we want in Midtown. How can we get anything in Midtown when it's chopped up the way it is? And the line for Midtown is just so jagged. And I keep trying to understand. We say Ridgewood to Nova, George Ingram to Shady Place. People look at that as a big square, but when people come and they talk to me, and I'm like, oh, but you're not in Midtown. But they think because they're between George Ingram and Shady and Ridgewood and Nova Road that they're in Midtown. And every project that is being done, I mean, and then I got real upset. I have nothing against turtles. But the lighting and the money and the plans and everything that has to be done for the beachside. Now they're talking about, is this really true, one Daytona? Is Midtown included in that one Daytona? That's the question. We keep saying one vision, one Daytona, and what hurts is the fact that we're aboard with the vision. And I read in the minutes from last month that with the Land Development Code and the Clarion has to give their input and come back and help finalize things. Has anyone from the Clarion Committee actually came and stayed in Midtown to really see the function of Midtown? I thought Dr. Jameson just wanted to say over and over and over in the meeting, the grass is growing in the road, the grass. I went down MLK, and it's ridiculous. The sidewalks, the roads, actual grass. And I'm not talking about little to where you have to dig. I'm talking about inches sticking up out the road. We fuss and we argue about Orange Avenue, but once again, I left that article at home. That project's been put on hold. Grants are strapped. The city's freezing. They're not hiring people. Things that we need done in Midtown, they just keep getting pushed under the rug, under the rug. Oh, it'll come back. We hear you. We don't have the funds. I can't knock anybody that's an investor, that's a business owner, from opening a business and doing, but if our city commissioner wants Midtown to be a place where people want to come and live and invest, I think a lot more needs to be said and done on Midtown's behalf. I mean, the crime rate alone, all of that, investors, they look into it. This one Daytona project, they say they're going to hire 4,200. It'll create 4,200 jobs. That's going to happen. But what's going to happen in Midtown? 3 years, we're still going to be sitting right here saying the same thing every meeting. Orange Avenue, Martin Luther King, the businesses. My husband and I wanted some ice cream yesterday. We came to eat ice cream, and the place was closed. 2 o'clock in the day. I'm trying to put the money back in, but the business isn't open. So my question is, how do we pull ourselves out of this rut? How do we do it? The city hears us, but I guess their hands get tied because it all goes back to funding. So my question is, once again, I want the city commissioner and everyone to know, we need some answers. And why is it everything we attempt, it keeps being, we keep being told it can't be done because of money? When I see money being spent all around Midtown, city money. I'm done. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Williams.
Got a couple of compliments. First of all, a couple of compliments rather. I'm tickled pink to see that that we're having some target dates for the with the Midtown redevelopment plan. I'm really happy about that. And Ms. Jameson has a.
They can't hear you.
Really? Okay. I'm happy about the Midtown plan, the fact that we're getting some target dates. Really happy about that. We're glad to see Professor Huffman again in September if we can get him down here. But I have a pet peeve too, as well as Ms. Jameson. She has a pet peeve about the grass growing up in the cracks, and I have a pet peeve about us continuing to encourage the citizens of this city to get involved. I think we have to get involved. I was in the meeting with our neighborhood watch last night, and we talked with the chief about an initiative that something that we're going to put together that was going to hopefully help through the citizens, help the schools, Campbell and Turie with their truancy problem. And this all ties into what Ms. Cato was saying also about developers coming in. They talk about, they do the demographics, and they do crime analysis and things of that nature. Well, this goes back to children that don't go to school eventually become criminals. It's just what it is. But at the same time, we've got to tie this whole thing is. My dad used to say that sometimes, it's not about asking a question. You got to ask the right questions. And if you have all the right answers to the wrong questions, then you still have the wrong answers because you haven't, in the first place, asked the right questions. And I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to get the citizens involved. And we have to make an effort to make that happen. Because that's where anything's strength is in its numbers. Ms. Cato, keep talking, keep arguing. Because, as they say, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And eventually we'll get some oil. But one of the things that we have to do is we have to have our citizens to understand how important it is that they get involved in the process. Because if there's nobody there to speak, there's no one to be listened to. And I think we really have to pay attention to in order to get our neighborhoods. Someone sent me a text today that it was just a random thing, and it said, seldom, if any time, do good schools create good communities. But good communities can always create good schools. And good communities can create almost anything within themselves that's good. But if the people in the community aren't bought in, then no one has to listen. That's my comment.
Mrs. Hurd?
I just have a few comments. Referring back to the minutes of the last meeting, I'm still asking, I think we talked about this before. We discussed things in meetings and some things never brought back to us. Such as I asked about the number of hair shops, hair salons being open. 3 on Orange Avenue within 2 blocks. And I'm still concerned about them all over town. The commissioners should be able to see them, and I see they're not talking about it or anything. The windows are covered. The windows are covered. And I mentioned all over town, not in Midtown, but all over. Mason Avenue, everywhere where the Henrys live. Nothing is being said. And it becomes to be a war zone after a while with everything closed. Some of the stores have equipment, other things at the glass, at the windows. You still cannot see in them. So I'm still asking the question, when are we going to get answers when we bring things to the forefront? Another one that I indicated also was the Johnson Service Station. Now, when we went through that process, I didn't have no idea that they were going to keep both the old tent up and put a new one there. See, they trying to outsmart us. Okay, they have taken the orange tent down, but the frame is still there. That is not in the Midtown plan to have all of these tents and things on MLK. And I still want to see that old tent down. Please. Thank you. Okay. Also, thank you for mentioning the sale of the properties and everything, because I did mention that last board meeting, and hopefully that the people in the community will hear about the sale of the properties before the people that work for the city buys them up. Also, I would like to indicate that the marquee at Bethune-Cookman Pack Center is beautiful, flashing. I passed by there today, 85 degrees, but it is beautiful. It adds to the to international and to the area itself, but it's still not hitting Midtown like we want it to hit. Also, the cleanup at the service station on the corner. Hopefully in the next month or so we'll see something being done there. Other than that, continue to work, keep an eye on things. And let me say this one thing. You know, I don't like the word fuss. Why is it we cannot discuss? We can't discuss. And I think our mayor indicated he used the term one Daytona, one vision as his slogan. So he needs to get busy. I hope he's watching. He needs to get busy and bring us together as one Daytona with one vision. Thank you.
Thank you, board. I want to thank Ms. Jones for coming out. Thank you. We're glad to see you here. Also want to thank Mr. Reddick for being here with us. I do want to make just a couple of comments. First thing is we still, Mr. Bryant and Mr. Berger, we still need to get some sheets for speakers to sign in so that we can keep a record of them. The next thing is we have a community festival that was planned and put together and never brought to Midtown. That, to me, says a lot. how do we expect all of the city to work together when we fragment and ignore the very redevelopment board that the whole festival is being held in their section? I'm merely making statement to that because we need to begin to work together and stop being fragmented. And it just amazed me that a person who has said how much they want to work with us put on a festival and didn't even include us. That's interesting to me. Not trying to cast stones, just an observation. Also, yes, there's a lot of things that need to be addressed in Midtown. My major concern with that is we need to start coming up with some plans rather than only diagnosing the problem. In the medical field, if all we did was diagnose a problem, how many patients would we really have? Because we never come up with a prognosis, we never come up with an action plan to get something done. I do know that there are some things that need to be done that the city cannot do in Midtown. They just can't do it. So then we need to begin to look outside of city funds to try to find investors who are willing to come into Midtown and help to redevelop Midtown. They are out there. I'm trying to contact one of the gentlemen up in West Florida who helped to put together that Tri-City project that has created great economic development in West Florida, who was facing the same situations we're facing here in Daytona. These are the things that we need to try to get done. A lot of it is going to take private industry as well as the city. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not neglecting or forgetting the fact that a lot of things have been neglected in Midtown that should have been done. But we can't go back and change the past, but we can go from here to make sure that it's not done again. So I do want to invite all the citizens to come out and help participate in this. I do ask everyone to continue to remember Dr. Jameson in your prayers. We want to make sure that she's doing well. Ms. Ford also, she was unable to attend tonight because of an illness. But we do want to continue to remember we are a community. One of the main things about a community is that we've got to watch each other's back. We've got, where there's a problem, all of us need to address the problem and come up with a solution. So all the organizations from the NAACP to even the Panhellenic Council that is listening, please come out to the Midtown Redevelopment Board meetings the second Tuesday of every month. We need your input. If you give us input, when we begin to implement things, you don't say, well, we didn't know about it. And I thank you for coming out. That's one of the main reasons that I'm now on this board, is because I came out and listened and heard what the board was doing instead of believing the street meetings. Because it's amazing how the meetings on the street know more about what's happening inside than what's really going on. But thank you all for all your work. I thank staff as always. Mr. Bryant, we appreciate your dedication. Some of you don't know that Mr. Bryant even had to work from home to get some things done. We thank you, Mr. Berger. Attorney Gross, good to see you there. We missed you last week. Last month, I'm sorry. To me, it was just a week ago. There's so much going on. But we are glad to see you here. And Ms. Groom, thank you so much for all the work that you do. And if there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned, and Mr. Bryant will let us know what the results of the poll so that we can have the special meeting. Good night.